October 8th, 2024 regular meeting of the City of Troy Planning Commission. Copies of the agenda for tonight's meeting are available at the entrance to the room. Agendas and minutes of prior meetings are available on the city website. The meeting will be conducted in accordance with the agenda as presented or amended by the Planning Commission. State law establishes planning commissions. This planning commission is comprised of 9 residents appointed to serve our community. Members are appointed by the mayor and confirmed by city council. Other individuals participating in the meeting include representatives of the city's planning department, city attorney's office, and the city's planning consultant, Carlisle Wortman Associates. If you wish to address the planning commission, please come forward to the lectern when recognized and clearly print your name and address on the sign-in sheet. Please begin your remarks by stating your name for the benefit of the commissioners. All remarks are to be addressed to the planning commission and not to anyone else in the room. If you have a cell phone or any other device that might disrupt this meeting, please either switch it to silent mode or turn it off. At this time, I ask the Planning Commission Recording Secretary, Kathy Zarnicki, to conduct the roll call.
Mr. Buechner?
Here.
Mr. Faison?
Here.
Mr. Fox?
Here.
Mr. Hudson?
Here.
Mr. Krent?
Here.
Mr. Lambert?
Here.
Ms. Mullally? Ms. Parakis?
Here.
Mr. Tagle?
Here.
Quorum present, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Next is approval of the agenda. Would anyone like to make a motion? Mr. Fox?
Thank you.
Mr. Tagle seconds that. Any discussion? All right, we're ready for the roll call.
Mr. Faison?
Yes.
Mr. Fox?
Yes.
Mr. Hudson?
Yes.
Mr. Krent?
Yes.
Mr. Lambert?
Yes.
Ms. Parakis?
Yes.
Mr. Tagle?
Yes.
Mr. Buechner?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Next is approval of the minutes from the September 10th, 2024 meeting. Mr. Faison makes a motion. Anyone second it? Okay, Mr. Buechner. Any discussion? Any edits, suggestions? Okay, we're ready for the roll call.
Mr. Fox?
Yes.
Mr. Hudson?
Yes.
Mr. Krent?
Yes.
Mr. Lambert?
Yes.
Ms. Parakis?
Yes.
Mr. Tagle?
Yes.
Mr. Buechner?
Yes.
Mr. Faison?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Now, item 4, public comment. This is for items that are not on the agenda tonight. If anyone is here to speak about something, for anything that is not on the agenda tonight, you can make your way forward. Okay, seeing no one here for that, we are going to move on to number 5, which is preliminary site plan review, SP JPLN 2024-0022, proposed Wilshire Center, single-family attached and multifamily development, north side of Wilshire, east of Crooks and north of Big Beaver, PIN 88-20-21-326-10, Section 21, currently zoned Big Beaver zoning district. Mr. Carlisle? I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you and good evening. Sorry. The site we proposed tonight for development, it's a little unusual site. It's one of the most unusual sites that we've actually ever really considered. The site's outlined in red in front of you. It's on the north side, north of Big Beaver. It's east of Crooks. It's adjacent to the Washington Square, Wilshire Estates, and Troy neighborhood in I-75. So this is single family to the west, single family here to the north, multifamily attached here to the north, I-75, NSI, which is a office type use, and then obviously Big Beaver commercial to the south. It's 15 acres and it's zoned Big Beaver. It's a very unusually shaped lot. We do note that there is an existing berm outlined here in green that is along the western property line. There's an existing tree line here along the northern property line. There's an existing wetland in the northeast corner of the site. And we note the unusual thing is the Wilshire right-of-way actually dead ends right here and kind of essentially in the middle or the start of the berm. I want to note that when we met with the applicant, there were a few things that we stressed about the redevelopment or the development of the site. And the first was we had to address the access issue because the last thing that we wanted to do was to cut into this berm to extend the Wilshire right-of-way. And there was a few proposals that Brent and I have seen over the last couple of years that did show that, and we have never supported that and actually brought that forward to the Planning Commission for that fact. The other thing we had stressed is the importance of maintaining this berm. It was very important to maintain the berm as a buffer and protection from the existing single-family neighborhoods that surround it. The applicant has agreed to preserve the berm. In addition, we know that we would like to maintain the existing tree line on the north side as well as the wetland. And again, those are all being preserved as part of the application. So the applicant really has worked diligently with us in order to preserve the existing natural features and natural buffers that already exist on the site. We do note that the application is also a little peculiar because they're actually doing some boundary adjustments to the existing lot. Essentially, the lot now is outlined in red here. What they're doing is they're doing a swap of land, essentially this portion, with NSI, where they're actually going to rebuild a part of the NSI parking lot in this location, put a common shared stormwater retention in this corner, and then redevelop the existing NSI lot in this location. They'll show up in the site plan. So there is a boundary adjustment in addition to the site plan, and the boundary adjustment wouldn't take place unless and until the Planning Commission approves the preliminary site plan, because they're not going to go through with that until they get approval of the Planning Commission. So the site plan is in front of you. It's 156 total units. 135 of them are townhomes, and they are in these kind of linear arrangements. And then there's a 21-unit apartment building that's adjacent and abutting 75. The new parking lot for NSI is in this location, and again, the shared detention is in this corner. The height ranges from 2 stories, so these purple are 2 stories. The blue that kind of abut the berm are 2.5 stories, and the green are 3-story townhomes. And the apartment buildings are, the apartment building here is 2 stories. Site amenities on the site include exercise room, pickleball courts, children's playground, an outdoor seating area, and a dog park. I do want to again stress they are preserving the berm in its natural state. They're not cutting into the berm or removing any existing trees on the berm. In order to develop it, they do have to put a retaining wall on the back end of it, but that will not affect the top of the berm, the height of the berm, or the condition of the berm. They are preserving the wetland and the tree line along the northern property line. In addition, you'll notice they're reconfiguring the parking lot for NSI, so they're basically now creating what we call a private road or drive that will extend off as shared easement with NSI to get into the site. So they're not touching the berm, and we're essentially treating this as a creation of a new private drive or private road to get access. One of the things that we've discussed with this parcel many times is the idea of transition. Especially it's a unique site because it's squeezed in between single-family residential and I-75, so there's a lot of uses that would not be compatible with either the I-75 use and the single-family use. So we talk a lot about transition, and we do find that multifamily and single-family attached as being proposed is a common transitional use between a more intense use, such as I-75, and a less intense use, such as single-family residential. We also do note that the height of gradually going from 2 to 3 stories again, is a transitional height technique, and especially in light, is appropriate, we think, especially in light of the preservation of the berm. So there will be little or minimal impact on adjacent properties. What do you do, Mr. Savadant? Well, I'll work behind me. Parking, there's 329 spaces. Proposed garages for townhomes, and there's going to be surface parking for the apartments. We do also note that they are expanding the NSI parking lot by 179 spaces to accommodate the loss of.
Oh, jeez.
Somebody just paid their bill this month.
Hold on. It's rebooting.
Obviously, we note that Travis traffic will also be a point of discussion with the Planning Commission. A traffic, I wouldn't call it a study, but a traffic review was done by OHM. They noted that during the AM peak hour, they approximate 71 vehicle trips. During the PM peak hour, it'd be 88 approximate trips. And they do conclude that overall, the amount of traffic generated from the site will not have a significant impact to Big Beaver Road, Crooks, or the surrounding roadway. We do note that opposed to a lot of developments we see where there's access to only one major mile road, this does split traffic up between Crooks and Big Beaver, so it should reduce the traffic impact on one road or another. Landscaping, the applicant has proposed a significant landscape amount in addition to preserving the trees in the buffer as noted before. We do find the overall landscaping is sufficient. We do note that the NSI parking lot, which again is in the southern portion of the site, has a lot of large uninterrupted concrete rows and aisles without the required landscaping in between it. So they have provided the required number. However, most of them are located on the periphery of that parking lot. So we are asking to actually break up that lot with additional parking lot trees. It's hard to see on the small screen, but we did have a lot of discussion with the applicant about overall layout, and we have found that the overall architectural program and the layout appears very monotonous. It's very linear and kind of soldier-like in a row, and a lot of or little variation between the units and the garages, and we think it kind of creates almost a canyon-like experience when you go through some of these with the amount of garage door significance of it. So we have asked the applicant to consider additional details or ways to break up that garage door dominance. What they have proposed is in between these garage doors is a little bit of a landscaped area. We have concern, again, about just the linear nature of the development, but also I don't think anything will be able to survive in that small landscaped area just to the size of it, as well as just the conditions with ice and snow and salt, et cetera. So I'm just not sure how efficient or useful that little landscape will be to actually survive and actually be the breakup that we're looking for to break up that garage door down. And so we asked for additional considerations from the applicant with that issue. This is a rendering of the proposed townhomes. The material include asphalt shingles, fascia, siding, and brick. The colors will be a combination of black, gray, white, and light brown. This is a rendering of the proposed apartment complex. Again, board and batten siding, aluminum siding, metal railings, and brick. Lights be a light cherry and or brick will be painted white color. This is a rendering of the site. This is looking at the stormwater retention pond in the corner, looking kind of to the northwest area. The berm is kind of behind. You can see the berm behind there. That's the new NSI parking lot to the left of the screen. And this is a rendering of the internal kind of pocket park that's kind of in between the diagonal buildings. So we are asking the Planning Commission to consider the following items. One is layout and design. Two is to revise the NSI parking lots to insert all the required parking lot trees. Three, clarify the balcony arrangement for the 2.5-story townhomes. There was confusion about where the balconies were located and what side of the elevation they're located on, so we're asking for clarification of that. Four, detail the long-term maintenance plan for the shrubs located in the garage door passageways, or remove them if they don't think they'll survive. And then five, Planning Commission to consider whether or not the proposed design is consistent with the architectural design requirements of Big Beaver. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I am finished. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone have questions for Mr. Carlisle before we ask the applicant up? Yeah. Mr. Lambert?
Mr. Carlisle, you just mentioned briefly about the Big Beaver district, form-based district. Can you elaborate a little bit more about what we should be looking at when we look at how this plan fits in with the Big Beaver planning standards?
So there are some specific design standards that are required to be met. We think those have been met in terms of just the number of the transparency, the location of the building in proximity to the road. But the other issue is just the quality of design. Is there a creativity in design? Is it too monotonous? How does it relate to other buildings in the surrounding area, and is it compatible with adjacent properties? So those are the types of things that we'd like the Planning Commission to consider, Mr. Lambert.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Oh, Mr. Fox.
Can you confirm the single-family attached homes, are they going to be for rent or for sale?
My understanding is the townhomes are attached are going to be for sale,
Okay.
and the apartments will be for rent.
And this may be a silly question, but where in the packet is that typically? Because I feel like there's been a couple properties where people, like I miss if it's for sale or if it's for rent. So is it like?
I don't know if there's anything indicated in the plans. It's just
Okay.
from conversation with the applicant. They can clarify that here tonight, whether or not they're proposing to rent or sell. But our understanding is these are for sale, apartments will be for rent.
Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Lambert.
Just one other question. I know when I served on the ZBA, that a proposal came up in front of us for a hotel on the site, and the ZBA it actually turned down the request for the variance. Why is it that this, the front line, property line does not need to go to the ZBA for a variance approval?
So the one that actually went to zoning board of appeals, Mr. Lambert, what they did is they basically came in here, they extended basically a driveway that went to this location, they cut into the berm, and then the building was actually placed pretty far back in the site. And we felt that it did not meet the district requirements because they were not bringing in essentially an approved drive off of the Wilshire right-of-way. What the applicant has done here is by not touching this and extending this through an easement that creates essentially a private road, they've brought the development up to the required street line, so they did not need a variance. The other way to do this would be, they would essentially have to cut into the berm to bring it right to this location, which it doesn't serve anyone's best interest to do that. And so we have made the interpretation that this essentially is going to serve as a private road, and they brought it up to the required building line, so it meets that requirement. It does not require a variance.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Kran.
So I'm looking at it, is my interpretation correct? There's only one entrance and exit road? Does the fire department say?
It has been reviewed by the fire department, and they have signed off on the site plan.
Okay.
Any other questions for the planning department before we ask the applicant, Todd? All right,
There's a video that we can play.
sorry,
we
I
can
forgot
play
about that.
Play now. So I don't know what happened with this. I came in at 6 o'clock to test it. It was on. I came in at 5 to 7. It was off. Then it came on again. Then it went off. Now it's on again. So I don't know. Gremlins. Let me start over. There was sound. I couldn't get this to work. I could hum along if you want.
Thank you, that was helpful. All right, yep, come on up.
You gave me a PowerPoint, didn't you, Jim?
What's that?
You gave me a PowerPoint.
Good evening, members of the Planning Commission. Jim Butler with PEA Group, address 1849 Pond Run, Auburn Hills, Michigan, 48326.
Area Nicola, Eureka Development, address 5960 Livernois, Troy.
I think Mr. Carlisle did a really good job of an overview of the project. When Mr. Nicola came to my office with this project, it was a challenge in looking at trying to preserve a lot of the natural features, creating transitions. We went through probably no less than 24 separate site plans going back and forth me saying yes, he's saying no, and me saying yes, he's saying no. So we think we've got to a point with this project, with the 4 types of residential uses, be it the apartment, be it the 2.5-story, and 3-story townhouses, and the 2-story houses. We think it creates a fairly unique opportunity in the city for housing, and creates that transition between the single family, the multifamily, and the business to the south, which is NSI. As Mr. Carlisle pointed out in his review letter about the parking area, yeah, we probably do need to add a few more islands to that parking lot to create more green space with internal to it. Not a problem. We have the room to do it. We just need to expand the parking lot a bit to the east. Won't affect the development at all. As you can see from the plan and the video that was displayed, we do have interconnectivity and walking throughout the entire development, so everything is interconnected with walkways. I don't know if you caught the areas that we do have. We do have a play area, we have a pickleball court, we have a tennis court, we have other seating areas within the development, so we've created kind of a community within a community.
Right, if I may, the walkability is key with all our projects. What we've done here, we took an additional step to ensure that the future inhabitants of this community would have access to the city center. That's key. So we worked relentlessly to try to make that happen through the site plan connectivity to the direct access sidewalk to the south that then takes you further to the city center area. That was one of those key things that we had to have in order for this community to thrive, yeah? So we want to make sure that that stands. Also, I want to point out that we've been discussing this plan not just amongst us, also with the community and NSI. They've been very helpful throughout the process. Community, of course, and I wanted to reiterate the fact that with that in mind, we have preserved over 50% of the land with this project as it pertains to the overall use of the parcel. And as you can see, this is the result. So thank you.
So if you have any questions of
Yeah,
us?
questions?
We'd be very happy to answer them.
Mr. Hudson?
You've done a great job. About 90% of this I really like. You made nice transitions between the housing types and in keeping with it being a community. The downside is, where's the creativity in the facades of all these buildings? The only difference seems to be that every other unit has a different color on it. Almost looks like Army barracks, quite frankly. And I know you've got the ability to be a little more creative in these facades with the buildings. And as far as the suggestion that they be shrubs on the side of all these garages, I can tell you from years on the Zoning Board of Appeals, and Mr. Lambert could probably confirm that when we get, for instance, a gas station and we have a brick wall, every building does not want a brick wall because cars bump into it and knock it down, and it's always a problem. This is plant material, and I suggest for the Michigan winter, you're going to have salt, you're going to have snow, you're going to have snow thrown upon these bushes with a driveway, which is going to kill them. I just don't think that's a good solution to it. So I'd like to suggest to you that you put your minds in a little creativity as to maybe breaking up Army barracks in 3 or 4 streets, different facades, and somehow to do something with that little apron for the driveway to a garage.
Yep, Mr. Fox?
Yeah, so to agree with Mr. Hudson on the first point, I think this is a really difficult lot to develop in, that you guys have come up with a really solid plan. Appreciate that you guys have been working with the planning office, appreciate the preservation of the green space, the addition of all the amenities. Honestly, this is really, for me, checks all of the boxes personally. I'm not super big an aesthetics guy, but I think this is a great development. I think one building design that we've seen before is almost like you're kind of alternating the buildings as they go, like you basically bump them out like maybe 5 feet to create less of a straight line and more of a crooked. I don't know, you're more the expert on that in terms of how much that would increase costs, et cetera, but I know that this board has seen those types of build in the past and has been in favor of them. So that's just maybe a suggestion to help with the monotony stage. For me personally, I would probably vote to approve this, but I understand if there's apprehensions about the appearance.
If I may,
Sure.
kind of a couple of comments here. Points are very well taken. We have looked at other designs to stagger one of them. Staggering works in areas where you have land and also you're not trying to preserve as much as we're preserving here. Because to stagger buildings, you take more as a footprint for each building. And we're at a point where we feel like we need to provide with some affordable start homes in Troy that the young families would be able to afford in terms of a sale. And we're at the point where there's a cost-based analysis that we have to fit in a product that meets some aesthetic or mostly aesthetic requirements, but also it does fulfill our cost obligation towards the project to have it as a viable project. In terms of the islands, and I agree with the islands not being preferred due to the salt and erosion. We had a meeting this morning with our team, and we thought that, we could put some artificial turf with some artificial flower or bushes that would give you the look. We do the maintenance once a year. It's a little less maintenance, but it does do that visual, gives you that visual effect. And it's way more durable than a natural product. And we're talking about islands that are 3.5 feet out by almost 2 feet wide. They're small spots just to break in the monotony of the garage side. Thank you.
Yep, Mr. Buechner.
And I think when you ended your presentation, I think you answered my question, but I want to make sure I got it. Green space, you're close to 50%?
More than 50.
More than 50.
More than 50.
And the number you're supposed to hit is 20, if I'm recalling correctly?
Yep.
Yeah.
So,
Pursuant to the
I
ordinance
mean,
form.
that's easy math for everybody in the room. I kind of like that. I'm assuming we've talked to neighbors from the city, from the applicants, and
Yes.
I guess we'll wait to see if we have some neighbors that are complaining, but it seems like a smaller group. Sidewalks, is there a drawing that shows the best amount of sidewalks? Because it looks like there's some sidewalks. It's such a tucked away area. I'm curious, because everybody wants walkability. Your customers are going to want walkability to come out of there to go past those
The
businesses.
landscape plan shows the sidewalks.
one.
This would be a color one. There's another one, color one, yep. Go down, yep. Yep, that's it.
I mean, what I'm seeing there, what I thought I saw is that there's a lot of sidewalks, right?
Right.
Yeah.
You've got a
Right.
lengthy amount for neighbors, for public, for bikes, for children.
Right.
I love the green space. I'm a big rackets guy. I think the pickleball, I know it's huge right now. It's the biggest sport and growing sport in the country. I guess I'm asking questions, but I think you guys are showing some details.
Yeah, it's the white areas depict the sidewalks. If you see the white,
Yeah.
all the white lines all
Fan-
around,
I
so.
mean, that's great. I mean, people are going to love that, I
Yep.
think, so I like that. We've asked about for sale, for rent. I guess my bigger question, is there an association that's in
Yes.
charge of pushing
can-
snow,
Yes.
making sure the trees don't get crumpled 3 months later and it's empty for the
All
rest
our
of our lives?
communities have an association that manages the day-to-day common elements of the subdivision, and this will have an association, a property management group that will manage it, yes.
I like what you were saying earlier about, for me, that you would look at the idea of turf. I don't know if that's the right way to go. I know our city guys know how to deal with that and help you and work together on that, so I feel comfortable. The 50% green space for me that's hard to hit. So I'm willing to, I don't think you can disagree that it looks a little bit linear, but the rest of the things you guys are doing for me, I'm a fan.
Thank you. Thank you.
Faison?
Yeah, yes, I agree with most of what has already been said. I think it's a good project, it's needed, housing types. I have an issue with the monotony of the design, right? And so have you evaluated that piece of it? I know you mentioned the cost if you kind of reconfigured it, but what about changing the materials or the colors to create more variations?
So if I may, there's renders, and I can walk you through the different products, if you don't mind. There's some renders at the bottom. So each product, keep going down. No, keep going down, yep, keep going, yep, all the way. Yep, all right, so we start with this one. This is a two-story, and it incorporates, this is a two-story building, incorporates various types of material, exterior materials, and elevation facade breaks. So basically, we have the ins and the outs to see variations. We also have, basically, on the type of material, we've used brick, of course. We've used different types of board siding, which is cement board, of course. And we play with the different color combinations and window schemes to enable more variations. For example, if you look at the first, second, third units, see those two third units? They have windows that go from the floor all the way up to the ceiling side to make those units appear very different from the units to the side. If you look, I mean, we have other renders if you scroll down of the same building. Keep going. Yeah, see, look at this. So for example, each unit, it's not the same. They have architectural. We've tried to introduce as many architectural features to make them kind of unique on their own.
I'm going to give you a pointer.
Yeah, I don't have it. So we're talking about this unit and this unit being different from the two middle units that now have different, not just different colors. They have different window sets, different, layout as it pertains, and so on. So we try to play with as much as we can to stay within that building envelope as possible. Now, if I go to the next building, let's go to the three-story incorporates the same type of elements, but if you go to 2.5-story, maybe that's more. This is the apartment building. As you can see, this is a contemporary design. We've included a lot of different colors and features here to make it stand out. You have the cider, we have the white, and so we've incorporated this building. We built it one time before in another community. They welcomed it. It has a very clean appearance in terms of the facade. But if you go to the 2.5, there's a 2.5. So if you look at this now you have the transition in the elevations. We have the bump outs. We've had the bump outs in the front now. The other buildings, you have the bump outs in the back. Now we have them in the front. Just to differentiate, to give it more of a break point between building to building, product to product. And that's what we're trying to do with as much as we were allowed to, while maintain the footprint.
Okay, thank you.
I don't know if that made sense, but thank you.
While we're looking at these with the sidewalks, actually, can you go to that? So, okay, sorry. So, for example, you're walking around and you're going into all the homes with the sidewalks, but then there was an opportunity, I'm really focusing in on that northeast corner. There's no sidewalk over there.
Oh, can you please go to the landscape? Thank you. So northeast corner, good question. So this is, if we were to, first of all, that's all wetland. So we have gotten the driveway to the point where we are not encroaching the existing protected wetland. And what we've done is we have sidewalks that go all around both sides of the subdivision, but that area which is across the street from any of the buildings, you don't have a sidewalk because we feasibly can't put one in there because we're right next to the wetlands, which we want to protect, we don't want to touch. But if you see circulation-wise, all the buildings are connected with sidewalks all around.
Yeah, I guess what I'm thinking of is for people who live there and want to go for a walk, it's kind of nice for them to be able to do a walk around. So they kind of, if an elderly person living in the apartment goes for a walk around and they get stuck there and then they're in the street.
So let me show you the way we have circulation. So let's say these guys here, they want to go around, right? The way that we have the walk in, the walk in half a mile goes like this. Go like this, go around, go here. There's a cross path here. You come here, you go back into your unit here. So it's almost a full circle. The only bypass you're doing is right here, which we have a crosswalk. It comes here and it goes to the unit. That's the reason why we had to do it the way we did it. Ideally, yes, I agree with you. You would want to have an ideal case to go all the way full loop it, but that's the reason why we couldn't do it, and we came up with this solution. When we go basically here, cross here, and come back to the unit.
Okay, and while we've got this picture up, how many feet approximately are between building 16 and 12? I mean, I know it's, you can't really
So,
tell me, but the narrowest.
So
spot.
which, 16, these two right here?
No, down here, 16 and 12.
I can't read which one is 16.
Oh, sorry.
I'm bad with eyes.
The ones down here.
No, the
Right
ones
there.
where the playground
Oh,
is.
these two right here?
Yeah.
Oh, the playground here.
Yep.
So this area here, so it starts here at 30 feet at the corner, and here is almost should be 150 feet at the end.
Oh, wow.
So it's 100, either 130 or 150 on top of my head now, but we can give you the exact, but it starts at 30 at the top. And it kind of opens up between the two buildings, so probably 100, is it, do you have the dimension? 130? 130. So we kind of, if you look at the layout, has not been all a rectangle. We kind of worked out with the shape of the parcel to try to fit in the triangle and try to transition in. So many iterations, it's like
Yeah.
months on of work.
Well, that was a
Yeah.
creative solution to
Right.
wedge in the playground. I'm fine with that.
And
Let
we
me
have a
ask,
dog park too on a corner down below.
yes, I see the dog part in the pickleball. Let me ask you about parking for people who live on the west side. Buildings, I think it's
So these,
1 through 5, if
oh.
they have visitors. I only see 4 spots on the west side. All the other visitor parking is on the east side.
so, we did have, agreed, parking is never enough. We need to have plenty of parking for visitors, you know. We had parking in the entryway right here. We had at least 6 or 7 parking spots right at this area here. Yeah? But it did not meet the Big Beaver ordinance for having parking on the side of the buildings. And we had to remove them. So what we did here in this area here, we created a couple of parking spots. These are more of vehicles that are coming in to get their mail. So we're going to have mailboxes here. So vehicles, so we can't put parking spots here. We looked at this area here, we couldn't. So then we thought, why don't we approach NSI? Because usually you're going to have people needing parking on weekends. And as you all know, NSI is not office space, they're not even utilizing a quarter of the building right now. So they have been open to the idea that, you know, you can park here if you want on a weekend. If you have a party, if you have people could come here and park and walk in the sidewalks here and go to these buildings. So in a sense, we're trying to work with the community, which in this case is NSI, to facilitate if any additional parking, you know, needs are needed at a certain time of the week. Even though we have more parking down here, that's the solution for those buildings on the west side. If we worked through all the process to try to get more, but we couldn't.
Okay. I mean, one idea would be to shrink your buildings down and add parking, or to flip, you know, to cut maybe one of the buildings smaller and add the parking at the caps of the buildings, but.
We couldn't do it on the side per Big Beaver, so this is called the side if you do them on the side. And that's why we couldn't put them in there, because we had like 8 parking spots on that side right there.
But like Building 19, for example, can you help them with finding?
Yeah, 19
Building
is,
19's got the 4 spots on the west.
yes.
That's a smaller building, so there was room for parking.
Yes, we
See what I mean?
could, yeah, and as I said, maybe we thought it was sufficient since NSI is willing to let us use some of their parking. There's plenty of parking that's more hard surfaces are not.
Yeah, no, I
Use-
understand.
so-
I was going to actually ask, maybe it's a building question, building department question, but I saw that when, in the replacement parking lot, they're replacing 323 spaces, and I wondered whether they were using those and whether they're required, I mean, do they want 320, I mean, to have that huge lot?
Our understanding when we reviewed the parking replacement was that was an agreement
Yep.
between the applicant and what NSI needed. So we just reviewed it based on what you proposed.
So what, if I may answer?
Yes.
The size of NSI is a certain amount of square feet. Per the ratio, there's a formula, you have to have X amount of parking spots. Currently, they're overparked. With our new design, they are perfectly parked. There's not one extra parking lot or one less. We kind of optimized it so they're not overparked, they don't have the additional hard spaces, surfaces. But we had to go with that minimum number in case in the future, NSI needs to sell the building. They need to comply. The requirements. The requirements.
Yeah, okay, perfect, that's what I wanted
Yeah.
to know. Because
So we
I drove
minimized
over
it.
there and it looked like so much parking.
Yes, we minimized
And so if you brought it down to
Yeah.
just the required
Right,
amount,
yes.
and then you're going to extend it in order to add the islands with the
Yes.
trees
Correct.
inside the parking
Yeah,
lot?
correct.
Okay. Okay, anyone else have any questions? Yep, Mr. Carr.
Getting back to the sidewalk and the NSI parking lot, you've got one situation, I understand people could go to the far west side and use the sidewalks to get to their apartments. But you've got a sidewalk between, I can't read the numbers, they're so far away. Let's say
There's a crosswalk.
there's a crosswalk that goes toward the NSI parking. Why can't you go through that grass? Will NSI allow you to extend that sidewalk to the south?
Above that?
No, I don't have a
The
pointer.
ones between
Yeah, I'm trying
24 and
to-
25, I think.
Yeah, right
Right
there.
there.
Yeah.
Right. Extend that in, so again, it allows more for those weekend party people to, get into the.
Easier,
Yeah,
basically.
Instead of going all the way around.
So we worked with NSI to come up with a compromise. One of their requests has been to maintain an ornamental fence between their parking lot and our project. And by having the ornamental fence, which, it's a 4-foot fence with some landscaping, which you saw, it doesn't per se allow us to then put gates in and gates out, because they want to make sure that aesthetically it looks right for them. And they've said, you want to use it, just go around, and your idea is perfectly fine. It's just we have to work with that ornamental fence that they want us to put in.
They don't want a gate there, huh?
They don't want, well, once you get gate, then the gate is, yeah, I will talk.
Not even a gate, an opening.
Yeah,
Yeah, well, I will talk to them.
Yeah, you
That's-
don't really need a gate.
Yeah, no,
I mean, who's gonna,
agreed.
Because I also thought about a sidewalk going to the parking lot, but I didn't know if it would be appealing to the residents being connected to that, an office parking
Exactly,
lot.
yeah, so it goes vice versa, yeah,
So
so.
it goes both ways, but anyway,
But it's something we can discuss. It's a good point. It's a good point, yes.
Mr. Tagle.
Mr. Butler,
Mr. Tickle.
how about a boardwalk along the edge of that wetlands? Is that something that's feasible with MDNR? That's cool.
So if I may? So, we talking about the wetland to the west or the wetland down here to the?
The northeast corner.
Oh, northeast corner, okay. I would speak on the west, so the west side also has a, let's say, a created wetland in terms of, the berm has created a wetland over the past 30 years, yeah? So we wanted to put a nature observation point right at the top of the berm on the north, on that side right there, where it's a higher elevation, and you can see the whole sub and the freeway and the trees on the wetland. Well, we thought it was a good idea, but then we heard the neighbors to the west. And we saw that they had a point on their view that they didn't want to have any commotion or kids playing in that area. And we said, okay, as we said, if that's your voice, that's your concern, we'll work with you. But rest assured that we have looked at that area to have it as a nature observation, but we took it out. We had a nice circle with benches and things. We took it out to accommodate their support. On the northeast side, I haven't looked into that, honestly, because I would assume you would have to encroach on the wetlands. You need Eagle to approve you, right? Am I?
Yeah, we need to get a permit
So we
from
need a
Eagle to
permit,
do
all that
that.
stuff that,
Yeah,
I
we
think
would
it's a
need to
mi-
get a
I think
permit.
it's a missing link, as we talked about earlier about, I mean, they can be looked at as an amenity, quite honestly.
yeah, of course, I agree.
And right now, you can drive by it or you can walk in the road, but I think a boardwalk would be a nice
Elevated
feature.
boardwalk.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can include
Using
that.
appearance.
We can include an elevated, yeah.
Couple other comments. I look at your renderings, and it almost looks like two different projects. There are some views of the, like, where I'm looking at a view right now of the playground.
Yes.
And, it's an attractive looking space.
Mhm.
I look on the garage side, and it's flat, and there's a lot of asphalt, and there's a lot of garage doors. And I'm curious, you put the balconies on that side of the building as opposed to the side looking out into the green space. But getting back to the appearance of the two elevations, it almost looks like the backside was treated like a backside, but it's a main side to this development because everybody coming into this development is going to drive down those roads, and that's going to be their impression. The people that live there certainly will utilize the green space and the playgrounds, et cetera. But it just looks like it's lacking on that driveway side significantly.
If I may, architecturally, we can fit the balconies, as you know, on the front or on the rear side. architecturally, we can make them work. What we have done is, it's the voice of the customer who buys these units and how they use the units, yeah? We have found that over our recent projects, the past 5 years, we build them both ways, in the front or in the rear. In most of the instances, people want to have a clean a porch entryway with some modern awning. They don't want to have people right on top with a balcony. And we've taken the voice of the customer, we've incorporated in 2 other communities in Troy, and people are quite content with this layout where the balconies are in the rear rather than the front, for that purpose. I guess it's the client or the demographic that buys these units, they do not care for having balconies in front. That's what we've seen. And then we're trying to accommodate, because we could go.
I find that absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
Because you've admitted you can put the balconies on either
Yeah,
side.
as I said, it doesn't cost us, it's the
Right.
same. But they've been persistent on other projects saying, and we put them in the back in the past 5 years, yeah, it's fine, everybody, it's fine. So, it's, yes, mind-boggling. We would not do something that the customers would not
Well,
want.
even just think about it.
Yeah.
Would you rather sit on a balcony with a glass of wine, watching your neighbors drive in and out of their garages? Or would you rather sit watching kids play or just sitting out in the green space? I just, and the fact that you said people don't want to come out of their front door with someone open, don't put the balcony over the front door.
So let me give you, so this is what and this is the trend, right? These are, for starter, homes with the young kids. We've seen the kids spend a lot more time on the paved side drawing chalk on the asphalt or on the brick wall than they spend on the green space. And what we've done here in this development, we've already put a wall on the playground, which we added at the last minute, where kids can go and draw there because they're spending more time. Because you know what happens? The garages, they use the garage as the main entry point to the unit, right? So the garages usually are open, they enter, the front door is rarely used, only when they have guests, most of the times. And that garage door is always open, the kids come out and play right there. And the balcony is right on top. So that's what we've seen, and we try to accommodate the trends as it pertains to the kids drawing chalk on the asphalt, for example, because they're doing it right in the garage door. You drive to our subs, right across, you go to our sub here, you'll see kids playing on the asphalt. So that's.
You don't want to encourage that in case a kid get hit by a car, right? I mean, that seems
So
like you're asking for trouble.
what I'm trying to say is that we are taking into account and creating an area for the kids to draw. So it's a space that we allocated for kids to go and draw on the playground.
On the playgrounds.
Oh yeah, well, we're doing it here, but this is what we're seeing, we're reacting to it.
You're strengthening the argument that it's nice to have the balcony on the side that you can watch kids draw on the wall or swing on the swings.
I agree.
And then the last thing, I would ask you to consider doing something with the elevations of the rear of these units. They're just so flat and just so, I mean, in those 3 little trees or shrubs or whatever, I wouldn't consider myself a purist, but I sure wouldn't put a plastic plant out there and say, oh, it'll stay green and it won't die because the salt's on it. Thank you.
I have a couple more questions myself. I was wondering whether you considered some sort of landscaping to I-75 to buffer. I was pretty surprised when I went to the northern neighborhood and you could not see the I-75. And I mean, it's so many trees there. And then you come here and I don't know how long it's been cleared, but it's cleared. There's no trees. So
30 years since Magna built the building that NSI is in today.
How many?
Over 30 years.
Oh, wow, okay. So, yeah, so there's nothing there, and you just are watching the cars go by. I mean, I don't know, it's going to take time for them to grow, to be a buffer, unless you're doing arborvitae, but I don't know how tall those go. But an evergreen, wall of evergreen, it would help with noise, it would help with sight.
We have.
Yeah, and that's what this color graphic doesn't show, but there's a pretty dense from where the wetland ceases all the way down past the dog park. There's a pretty dense evergreen
It's a
type
green
hedge.
belt.
It's a green belt.
Yeah,
It's 20 feet wide there, and we're planning that pretty heavily.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we're planning that pretty heavily. If you look at the landscape plan,
Okay.
It's pretty heavy.
It's all dark.
yeah.
Okay. And then one other question was, why not more apartments? There's only, out of the 56, there's only 21 apartments.
So, good
135
question. I
townhomes.
can say this, we do a market study every year or so in our communities. And we know what Troy has built in the past 5 years and what's going to build in the next 5 years, based on what we see in the market and what's happening. And also, we see what the demand is, since we build a lot of these single-family attached communities, we see what the demand is for starter homes, homes in these communities that people want to buy, but they can't afford them. And we see that these are the products that the community is lacking, not the rentals. You have Zen, you have the corner on the Wiggly Square, or whatever. We have more coming. There's a lot more apartments than this product they can buy. That's why we decided to go with this product. Because
And
by
what
right,
are
you
your
can go with a
prices?
apartment that's 8-story high building here. By right, you can go very high. But based on our market analysis, this is a product the community needs, and this is something that we think will go well there.
Okay,
Transition.
and could you give us an idea of the price point for some
Yeah,
of
so
these
they
things?
will start at upper 300s, so which is a good starting point for the pricing, upper 300s. Now, that's, again, based on today's economics. That's our target, and then we'll go to upper 400s. So it'll be within that ballpark.
Okay. Does anyone else have any question for the applicant? Yep, Mr. Beekner.
I like this project, but I like Mr. Tagel's idea of the boardwalk. Is that hard to do?
We can
Is that gonna be
incorporate.
trouble
we
with
can
Eagle? I
incorporate
don't
some,
want to try to tell you guys how to do what you do, but if it's super hard, then maybe we don't. But that's the cherry on top for me. And I think that would just, everybody's going to love that. And then that would complete the circle. I'm just curious what your thoughts are.
It's a permit that we'd have to get from Eagle. It's a minor permit, so it's not a significant heavy lift, but it is a lift.
Well,
I like that. I just like that a lot as
Are
soon
we
as you
doing
said
a
that.
full length? Are we doing a partial length, like an observatory, like a deck? Is that where you?
I guess we got to know how far you want us to
Like,
take
Is
this.
it more like a deck area where you can sit and observe the wetland, like an area where, like 40 feet long by whatever, so that people can have?
Could you connect those sidewalks on that corner?
Oh, go all the way around?
Sure.
I
Whether
think
it's-
that was what you had in mind.
Yeah, I
is-
wanted the
Okay,
connection.
so
to
you
make-
want an observation.
Keep the
you want a
circle
collector.
going.
Okay.
And I-
That's just, that's a wow factor
Plus you
for me.
keep it tight to the
For your
back.
customers, it's a wow factor.
Is it a 5-foot sidewalk, right? Is that what we're doing there? 5 foot, yeah. Yeah, okay, yes.
Mr.
And I don't like to try to tell you guys what to do, but I just think that's wonderful. And I would love to see that.
I think, you can have a walking width for most of it, but it would be nice to make it a little bit wider at certain intervals, just to put a bench in there, so people could actually sit down.
Yeah, agreed.
That's a good point. Thank you, Mr. Strickler.
Okay. I think we don't have any other questions. I think there are some people from the public who might, this is not a public hearing, but if there's anyone here who wants to talk on this topic, we can go ahead and ask you guys to come up. I just ask that you sign in. Yep, come on up. Our rules are that you have 3 minutes, and I think Mr. Savidant's going to keep time for us. It'll be a green light, and when you have 1 minute left, it'll go yellow and then red.
Okay, my name is Mark Duddles. I live at 830 Muir Drive, which is at the stub of Muir Drive and directly adjacent to the eastern edge, or the western edge of the parcel that we're talking about. I represent the Homeowners Association, the Wilshire Muir Homeowners Association. We're grateful for the consideration the developer has given to our request that the berm and the wooded area that buffers the commercial property and the residential property. And we also appreciate that the accommodations that they've made to the request that we made for some minor changes in their development. So I guess what I'm here to say is that the berm and the wooded area is our primary concern. It's a feature of the land that we fought hard for when the original land use agreement was given to Magna some 25, 26 years ago, right, Brent? And so, we'd like to make sure that is maintained to perpetuity. We're grateful for the efforts that the developers made, but we would like to see some consideration for either in in the approval resolution that you guys put together, or something from the developer himself that guarantees that no future development is done to that area? So I don't know how that can be done, but that is our one request. That's all we have.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here who'd like to speak tonight on this item? Okay, seeing no one, we'll turn it back to Planning Commissioner discussion. Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Krantz.
I'm going to agree with Mr. Hudson and Mr. Tagle about the garage, especially the garage side of the architecture. I was brought up in the 1950s. My neighborhood was near 8 Mile Road, and all along 8 Mile Road there was these garage builders, and it was just the mundane, one after another, slap them up look, and that section, especially the two-story area, reminds me of those garages that are along 8 Mile Road to sell, and it just doesn't look like the quality of Troy. It doesn't have that aesthetic appeal. It doesn't have the design. I don't think it meets the design requirements of the section 8.06. I'll just read it briefly. It says, development shall ensure compatibility to existing commercial districts and provide transition between users. Number A is the one I'm focused on, is building design shall enhance the character of the surrounding area in relation to the buildings and parking placement, landscape, treescape features, and architectural design. So what I'm seeing here is it doesn't really meet the creativity. And also on part 2, development shall incorporate the recognized best architectural building design practices. And again, the 8 Mile Road garages, to me, are not the best architectural building design practices. So the fronts look fine. I don't really have a big objection to the front door areas. But both the 3-story and the 2-story garages side just kills it for me. All the rest is great.
Thank you. Yep, Mr. Lambert.
Yeah, just following up on the comment from the representative from the Homeowners Association to city staff, has there been any discussion about putting some type of a conservation easement on that berm so that no development could occur in the future?
There has not, but I'll defer this question to Julie.
Right, I mean, there's not been any discussion, there's not been any offer by the developer, so, I mean.
That would be something that the developer would have to offer then?
Good evening. Upon approval, we would be happy to engage with that, of course, and make sure that it goes on in perpetuity. We spoke to Mr. Duddles earlier, and we told him such. Obviously, we haven't had that conversation before because we hadn't had that conversation before, but we would be happy to.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. I actually had another question for the applicant. Sorry I didn't mention it before, but somewhere in the packet, it said it was going to be a phasing of about 42 months, which is 3.5 years. Is there, well, I chose the word phasing. Is it going to be, is it going to take that long to build this, or are you phasing it in? And if so, what order are you doing this?
This is going to be one project, one phase. Based on our experience and the site location, and we will do it within 42 months as one whole project. It's one project. It takes us 42 months from start to finish based on our estimates. That's our that's our estimate at this point.
Okay.
Does it make sense, or?
Long, but maybe I don't know what I'm talking about.
Well,
it does seem long. There's no civil engineers up here, but could you walk us through that?
If I may, we had a project of 62 units at Dick Winder and Square Lake, right south of Troy Beaumont. We started that on May after COVID, 2020. We're supposed to do that project within 22 months. It took us more than 30. So we've learned our lessons, and we don't want to be overpromising, overreaching when we say 42. It could be, we are vetted more than anybody else to finish the project as soon as possible, because we are the one that invests. So rest assured that we will do what we can to make it shorter, but this is our estimation at this point.
Okay, thank you. I mean, I guess for the building department, my question would be, I've never really paid attention. Most applicants don't give us that time frame. I mean, is that for us to worry about, or that's a building side thing and a permit thing? And
As long as they continue to make progress, that they can continue construction.
okay, yeah, it just struck me. I noticed and I wrote it down. It struck me as kind of a long time, but okay. Yes, Mr. Buechner.
COVID slowed everybody down everywhere, so that was part of it, in my opinion. There are two details in our resolution potential asking about balcony arrangements for the 2.5-story townhouses. I don't know that we got answers for the two items. Sorry to give you your steps today, but if you don't mind coming back up. One of the questions, yeah, the balcony arrangement for 2.5-story townhomes, and then there's another question.
So the balcony arrangements, we miss one of the pages of the architectural plans. If you can bring them up. We mislabeling the balcony. The balconies show up in the plans. We just mislabeling the actual balcony so you can see it. So if you go to the
black and whites?
Yeah, the black and whites. So one more page. So the one the one up you just passed. You just
passed?
2.5, yeah. So this is it. So you can see there's the balconies here on the side elevation, but then you go one page further up. So this one here on the concentrate on the block to the lower left, and there on the side, on the top of it, we should have marked balconies. We didn't, even though we're showing balconies. If you look at the lower left, right there, yep, right there. We just missed marking the balconies, but those are the balconies. It's already accounted for. It was mislabeled from our side. We already changed the plans, but we didn't have enough time to resubmit them.
And the third item on here was the long-term maintenance plan for shrubs located in the garage door passageways. We've talked about the fact that green's going to get destroyed, in our opinion, and you've mentioned the idea of turf and artificial, so I don't know how we bring that up for a resolution, but want to throw that out there. I think we've talked about it, but I guess we would say we'd like you to work with the city on that to do what's best. Am I correct, Brent?
Do you want to do artificial turf and the artificial shrubs?
Yes.
So the applicants indicated they're willing to do the artificial in lieu of the natural.
And I kind of see how this is going, where there's some of us that are in favor, and there's some people that I value all of their opinions that might not be in favor. So I do think we're heading in the right direction. And I think we need to keep discussing it, and I'm sure one of us will make a resolution.
Yeah, but before I call on you, I'm just going to, I mean, I just, again, I want to ask, because I'm wondering, I'm thinking you're about to make a resolution. I'm just curious where we sit. I mean, of course, you can throw out a resolution and half of us can say no and I mean, our options are we can postpone it and ask them to come back and fix some of these things. I think, I don't know that I'm satisfied with the turf. I don't know what other, I mean, I don't know what else can be done there, but turf doesn't sound like a great idea to me. I know that there are people who had issues with the elevations. Those are pretty major things that I think we can't just ask the building department to approve. That's our job. So I'm just curious where everyone's at, but Mr. Fox?
Yeah, I just want to, so I appreciate that it seems like all of us on the Planning Commission are at least in agreement in that this is a great use for this property, and this is a great transitional use with the highway. I think getting these types of purchasable units, we look at a lot of apartments, so getting things that can actually be purchased and owned, great addition to the city. I think the only places that I find myself disagreeing with, I always find myself kind of caught up when it comes to aesthetic differences. I know I've talked about it before. And for me, where I know there is absolutely a balance, and there's definitely like a line we can walk. But I do worry that with pushing aesthetic things, you start kind of pumping up the value, and you start making things a little more expensive as you kind of push into aesthetics. There's definitely a balance, and I absolutely understand the idea that they're very monotonous on the garage side. I'm not arguing with that point that anyone has made. But I do think, I also gathered that I think we're in a position where enough of us have questions that we may end up postponing this. And I would just caution us, don't get so caught up at the aesthetics that we don't appreciate how useful and the utility of this kind of build in the city. But again, there's a balance to be found, but.
Thank you. Also, I wanted clarification when the gentleman came up and talked to us about putting the berm in perpetuity, if that could be a condition. Mrs. Dufresne, is that, you're comfortable with that? It seems like it was offered that could be a condition of our resolution, that would be worked out?
Right, you'd have to make the condition that they work with the city in terms of a mutually agreeable conservation easement.
Okay. And, of course, the other item was that they were going to increase the size of the parking lot so they're able to put the trees internally, which meets our other issue. So those were the things. And also the boardwalk was something that I think that we would want to require because it completed I feel strongly that that creates the connectivity and it sort of resolves the break in the connectivity, for me, anyway. So those would be things that I would look for in a resolution.
Going back to the artificial turf and the artificial shrubs, I've never seen a good application of that. I'm not saying that it doesn't exist. I'm just saying I've never seen one. And I think there's got to be other ways to do something to break up the monotony that doesn't necessarily involve turf and fake plants. There may be products out there that I'm not aware of that look amazing. I just don't know. Rocks. There's other things that can be used that I haven't had a chance to think about it, and I'm not a designer. But I'm just wondering if we are moving towards a resolution, I hesitate to lock them into artificial turf and artificial plants when I don't even know if that's a really viable solution.
Let me ask you this, though. Are you also saying that you're uncomfortable with us leaving it open, saying that you guys are going to approve whatever they're going to do there?
For something, I think we can handle working with them to break up the monotony. I'm just saying, I'm uncomfortable locking them in. I've seen really nasty artificial turf outside. It just doesn't.
Yeah, no, I'm not about the artificial.
Yeah.
Mr. Tagle, I'm wondering if you have something.
Yeah, we're talking about a ground plane change to hide a garage door. There are other solutions to hide or not even hide it, but to mask it or create something in the forefront of it, a pergola or something that would take that. Well, number one, it would take the flatness away. Number two, it would take that garage door that just is smacking you in the face when you drive down there. So I think there's other creative opportunities other than even landscaping for that matter. But, maybe landscaping is the right, or part of the right solution, but I just cannot approve fake grass and plastic bushes.
If I may, for what it's worth, Mr. Tagle, I, on behalf of the development, hate it as well, and I would love nothing more than to do something else, but perhaps when time comes to do the resolution, something broader that gives us the opportunity to work with the city with whatever proposed solutions, and we'll consider them all. Ideally speaking, though, we would want to stay within something that is natural, something green, nothing fake, for what it's worth.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Can you ask the gentleman, please sign in, sir, for me?
Sorry.
Thank you very much.
Of course.
Yeah, Mr. Tagle?
Yeah, as soon as he's done signing in, I want to ask him something.
Yes, sir. I'm listening.
My comment a minute ago was a suggestion to look at other alternatives.
Absolutely.
Other than a ground plane landscaping.
I heard you loud and clear, and we did, and we will.
Okay, I just want to make sure that.
Oh, absolutely. No, I heard you loud and clear. Absolutely, we did. And we had just uttered to one another, signed in. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Hudson.
Mr. Sabanont and Mr. Tagle have encapsulated what I was going to suggest, and that is, I've never seen a good artificial plant. it doesn't look phony. But there may be some landscaping tips. Tall shrubs, tall, durable shrubs, which would take care of breaking up the monotony, and if they use their imagination, it could also mask Mr. Tagle's ideas on a plain, ugly garage door scenario was going on there. I think we worked out, and I think the applicant is in favor of seeing he can't accommodate us and still not have a bad looking.
Were you just going to say
Thank
it
you.
looks like a piece of crap?
And-
Is that it?
Well, I was going to be a little
Mr.
more firm.
Mr. Tagle, I just want, you mentioned, I was under the impression you had mentioned an architectural element.
Yep.
You
Yes.
you said pergola. Can you explain that a little bit so we're,
It's an element that would come off horizontally off the face of the building, be supported on some columns, but it's just a plain.
oh, I get it, okay.
You know, there's another option too. You know, these garage doors are shown as I assume, just a plain stamped metal door. There are doors out there that have glass in them now, that, you know, frosted glass, that, again, it's a little bit more attractive than your standard garage door.
Okay, thank you for clarifying, because when you first said pergola, I was picturing awning.
No.
Okay. Yes, Mr. Butler.
Yes, I'm familiar with what Mr. Tagle's mentioning about the breaking of those planes. I think in that area, we can come up with something, we want it to survive, we want it to be low maintenance. There are certain species of shrubs that we can use in those areas that'll fill out that area very nicely. I think what we have, we made pretty much a failed attempt to kind of show some ground cover to break it up, but I think a little more work on it, I think there is a plant we can put in or two that would help.
Mr. Crack.
I'd like to see something a little more creative than just some ground plants. I like Mr. Tagle's idea of possibly a pergola-type architectural element, maybe a lattice work that would, again, come out from the building. You only have 3 feet here coming out. But again, it would, just like you do, just like in this building here with all these pieces coming out, it breaks up, if you were looking at it down the line, it breaks up the monotony of seeing one garage door after another because you've got these things protruding out. And they could have a vine on them, a growing vine on the lattice work, or you could have, let's say, planter boxes 3 or 4 feet up. You know, you go through a lot of cities like Marquette, and they put planter boxes hanging out windows and windowsills, and it looks fabulous.
Yeah.
I'm thinking more creative than just a ground planting.
The only thing I would be cautious of is its height and its protrusion. Obviously, you're backing out of a garage in the sight line of it. That's the only thing I would be cautious of.
I understand, but
Yep.
you know, if you had a 4x4 lattice work, 4x4-inch lattice work set up, and then off of it maybe you're only 2 feet wide, so maybe an 8-inch planter box suspended halfway up, 4 feet up. Again, and let them, you know, greens come down, you know, something that looks really attractive as opposed to a fix. This would be an intentional way to make it look spectacular.
And of course, the garage door. The garage door can
Oh,
be
yeah.
upgraded as well. Yes, Mr. Fox.
Well, maybe just to understand where the planning commission's at, just a simple like nod or shaking of heads. Where is the planning commission feeling in terms of providing some type of language in the motion that allows the applicant discretion to work with the planning department for a solution to break up the monotony along the garage sides? Because we've suggested like 4 different potential solutions, which is fantastic, like find solutions, awesome. But I feel like, is there a way that the planning commission would be comfortable with sort of a, you know, discretion of the planning office to find a solution along those lines in a motion that we were to make tonight?
Yes, Mr.
So
Faison.
I had a similar question, but maybe from a different direction. I thought with all the guidance that it seemed that would be a lot to ask the planning department to approve administratively. And that given all the suggestions, that I would prefer that we postpone with that direction to the applicant and they come back and they show us the revised plan.
Okay. I mean, there's still no resolution out there, so.
No, understood.
Yeah,
understood,
yeah.
understood.
Mr. Buechner?
One other question, because we're missing one of our commissioners. So do they need 5 votes or 4?
There's
Yes.
8 of us.
They need
Five.
5. I'm a fan of this, probably as much as everybody up here, but I hear what my commissioners are saying. We live in a wonderful city, and we want it to be as wonderful, and you guys do too. So I'm leaning towards that direction of, we've given you some guidance. You guys are the experts. There's a couple details that we'd like to see you do, and we'd like to see the renovation. That's what I'm speaking for now. So I feel like feel like we're leaning that direction, but if we want to do it, I don't know if we're allowed to do it. What, is it mentioning a little nod of the head or raise of the hand before we do it, or do we do a resolution?
Yeah, I mean, anyone can make a resolution at any time.
I'm a big fan, and I'd make a resolution, I'd make a resolution to postpone, knowing that I think we've given them guidance, and I think we've given them guidance on the different things that we've said. Do we need to make a resolution to say that?
I think we should outline the things that we're looking for them to come back, because I imagine when it comes back, it'll be an abbreviated presentation, just touching on the items that are in our resolution, so they do not have to present the entire application. And Ms. Malala Holly will just watch back what we discussed tonight, and she'll be bound sort of by those things that we outlined for her in the resolution. So go ahead.
So I'd make that resolution, that preliminary site plan approval pursuit of Article 8 of the zoning ordinance as requested for the proposed Wilshire Center, single-family attached and multiple family development, north side of Wilshire, east of Crooks, and north of Big Beaver, PIN 88-20-21-326-010, Section 21, currently zoned BB, Big Beaver zoning district, be postponed, subject to the following conditions. We talked about revising NSI's parking lot layout so that the parking lot trees are more internal to the parking lot, clarifying the balcony arrangements for the 2.5-story townhomes that we discussed earlier, detail long-term maintenance plans for the shrubs and the garage door and passageways. I think we discussed, and you guys are the experts, although Mr. Tagel's an expert as well, but not just pergola, not just lattice, but great examples of ideas that you guys will come up with. The 4th number for me was the neighbors' protection, that be in perpetuity. And the 5th one that I had was the boardwalk, that I'd love to see you connect that northeast corner. Was there anything else my commissioners would change?
Garage doors.
Second?
Oh, the
Garage,
Garage, good point. I don't know if that's included in shrubs for 3 or adding a number 6, and Mrs. Zarnicki will get mad at me, but garage doors may be improved a touch too, would be wonderful.
or aesthetically pleasing, let's put it that way.
Aesthetically pleasing, Mr. Krent,
Thank you.
helping me with
We have
my
a second
English.
to that motion?
Second.
Oh,
And
Mr.
I'm
Fox
going to say it
seconded.
again, you guys are doing a great job, and it's going to go through, in my opinion, but thank you for working with us on a couple details.
Bruce Avenant?
So in a future life, I used to write Parks and Recreation grants, and I know that boardwalks can be really, really expensive. Can we, just to give them some flexibility, in the event that they cost out the cost of a boardwalk, maybe it's cheaper to put a sidewalk next to the asphalt instead of a boardwalk? Can we say, connect the sidewalk, create a loop with a boardwalk or other reasonable walkway, something like that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm
it's a
assuming
side-
that if they could have fit it, they would have done it, but, yeah, I mean, of course. I mean, it's fine with me, it's your motion.
That's why I asked the question, is this a big ask or is it not a big ask? And I heard them say it's not a big ask.
I didn't see Jim clutch his chest, but I just want to make sure that we're,
I just think the boardwalk, we have them in Troy and they're beautiful. And I've seen them in Birmingham and other places we all have, and I think that's excellent. But
To me, it's an amenity that is important for me. I think it's,
I don't want to break the
You're in a
bank either.
motion, so I don't know if I can.
yeah, no, you're,
Okay,
go ahead,
thank
come
you.
on up.
In looking at that area, right now, there is a retaining wall that's going to be on that piece of curvature. There is probably a way to move that drive a little bit to create a walkway through that area, potentially, to connect all that together in lieu of a boardwalk. The idea is for connectivity, right?
Yep.
Yes.
So if we can achieve that,
Yes, so it's your motion, and we'd have to get a second again, but if you want to revise your motion to allow more flexibility on that point.
Mr. Krant had
Yeah, I had
something to say.
just a little add-on to your motion, is that if it would include some kind of observation area, even if it's just a sidewalk, you can go out a little bit and get some kind of permission for that without being too costly. Maybe, again, one of these, I don't want to say, the plastic lumber that doesn't rot. I don't know. I don't want to use brand names, but anyway, the idea is an observation deck overlooking that natural area. It just brings, it's so city-like. I'd just love to see something natural, real wild, for people to enjoy.
I think Mr. Tagel's about to say something too. I can see him thinking.
The reason I brought up the boardwalk was it seemed like a natural fitting to that setting, as opposed to a concrete walk. To me, secondarily would be a bituminous walk, something that's a little, it's not going to scream at you as a white sidewalk. But if again, maybe that retaining wall is part of the support system for a boardwalk, an elevated boardwalk or something. I don't know.
well, we can come up with something creative.
I
Because
think
we'd like some latitude to be able to do so.
I think that's what we're asking you to do.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
I think there's a way to accomplish what you're intending and wanting to do, with some things we can come
I'm going to stick with the boardwalk wording for now. If they want to come back with something that wows us in a different way, then that's fine with my
That's smart.
commissioner's agreement.
Yep. Good.
I think we had a second, or
I
did
think
we?
it was Mr. Fox. Okay, thank you, and further discussion. Okay, I think we're ready for the vote.
Mr. Hudson?
Yes.
Mr. Krant?
Yes.
Mr. Lambert?
Yes.
Ms. Parakis?
Yes.
Mr. Tagle?
Yes.
Mr. Biekner?
Yes.
Mr. Faison?
Yes.
Mr. Fox?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. So we postponed that, and thank you for being here, and we'll see you again. Okay, so we're moving on to public comment for items on the agenda. If anyone wants to speak at this point for the item that we just discussed, you're welcome to come on up. Okay, seeing no one, we're going to move on to Planning Commission comment, and I'm going to start with Mr. Fox.
Yeah, I recently read an article, I believe it was in the Oakland Times, detailing how Troy, across the state of Michigan, they, did a survey. We have the second highest population of folks who have immigrated from other countries living here in Troy, of any city in the entire state. And I just want to say, I think that's fantastic. I feel like there is a lot of rhetoric about immigrants and folks moving into communities from other places that is viewed in kind of a negative light. But I will say I think Troy is all the better for all the folks who are moving in here from across the planet. So just very interesting statistic that I saw.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Fox. Mr. Biekner?
I'm good.
You're good. Mr. Hudson?
Nothing, thanks.
Mr. Faison? Mr. Lambert?
Just a quick inquiry for our staff. I know this is not technically within the purview of the Planning Commission, but I've seen the sign go up for the new car wash, Jack's Car Wash on Long Lake. And I know there were some concerns expressed, I think, by Ms. Malala Holly at the meeting when we discussed it about some of the issues with traffic, trying to make that turn when you're going westbound on Long Lake and trying to make a left turn to go back the other way on Long Lake. And is there any possibility of having, I don't know if that's a county road or a city road, but having the traffic committee look at prohibiting right turns on red when you're going northbound on Crooks there and trying to go eastbound on Long Lake?
You mean Livernois?
Livernois, I'm sorry.
Well, it's got to go through final engineering, so I can certainly make that suggestion to the engineering department. It was reviewed by engineering during the preliminary review process, and our traffic consultant also looked at it. But I'm happy to share your concern with engineering.
Yeah, I think it's going to get worse when the car wash is there, so.
Okay.
Thank you.
Do I go next?
No,
I-
sure,
so
you're the chair.
I
You can
had
go
a
when you
question,
want.
because I get asked this all the time by people, and we've talked about it, but what is the timing on the building off of 75 at Rochester Road with the stairwells?
They did do some work.
I mean, I feel like they did some work maybe to keep their permits. Where are we with that?
All I can say is it's moving forward, and I can look into it and see. I can maybe talk to the owners and see what the plan is.
Okay, because it predates me, and I've been here for, I don't know, 4
Yeah.
years, and so I don't even, it's a hotel, I tell people? It's a hotel.
I get a lot of inquiries about those elevator shafts, stairwells, whatever they are.
Stairwells, whatever they are. Okay, all right.
All right,
Mr. Crown.
just want to mention that some of us attended the annual Michigan Association of Planning Conference, and I found some of those sessions very helpful for the work I do here. But in addition to that, we did tour a shopping mall that's sort of in that same predicament, let's say, as Oakland Mall. And so there were some examples of what they were going to do, what they weren't going to do. I learned a lot from attending that. And the other one that was, it doesn't really apply to Troy, but I got a real good understanding on a presentation about the groundwater in Michigan, the entire state, and how fortunate we are to have the groundwater we have, because with how the glaciers came down, it's basically U-shaped arcs throughout the state. And some are completely dry. They're just clay, or there's no water under any kind of, you can't tap into it. But anyway, it was just interesting knowledge about our state as far as the groundwater we have. That's it.
Thank you for that.
I'm good.
You're good?
Nothing from me.
Mr. Soto? Mr. Carlisle? All right, 8:28, meeting adjourned. Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone.